I'm Arlen Geyer. This is an alto recorder. And alto recorders are in F, so the lowest note on the instrument is in F with all your fingers down. The easiest notes to play on this instrument are the ones that are left hand only. So this is a C, and then C, D, E, F, and then G, take the thumb off, so those are the easiest notes to play. There are no complicated cross fingerings. You do have the switch from E to F like that, but it's just just a one finger switch there. Whereas if you go down from there, it gets a little more complicated. A B is these two fingers, and then it gets easier. Except that just as you get lower on the instrument, the notes get a little bit more difficult to play because the instrument's more sensitive down there. So it's just a little bit more complicated. But as you go up from G here, it gets more complicated because you have to do what is referred to as half-holing the thumb. So you let your thumb come out just a little bit. Now it's referred to as half-holing, but in fact, all you're doing is just making a little crack in that hole. So when you go from G to A, you're putting all these fingers down here, and you're letting the thumb hole vent a little bit. That's what it sounds like if you don't do that. So you need to let that vent, and the same thing is true all the way up from there, all the way up to the high notes of the instrument. Now, the problem is getting exactly the right amount of hole open and being able to switch quickly between it being closed and open. So if you have to go, you have to be able to get that open quickly. And there are two schools of thought about the appropriate way to crack that thumb hole open. One is to roll your thumb to the side, and the other is to bend it so that you use your fingernail to create an edge for the opening. And most teachers will say that those two are acceptable. Some teachers will say the only acceptable one is the one with the fingernail. And the reason is that you get a much cleaner sound. It's a much more precise opening when you do that with that thumbnail against the edge. Of course, you have to keep your thumbnail really short to make that work. But the problem with that one is that it's much more difficult to switch quickly from a low note to a high note. And you can hear how shaky that was switching, as opposed to where the notes are coming out much cleaner. So the preferred one is generally to use your thumbnail, but if you're switching back and forth quickly, it's often easier to use the one where you're rolling your thumb back. So the rolling the thumb, you want to position your thumb so that it is very close to the opening. So you're just barely closing the hole, and right with the edge of your thumb, right near your thumbnail. And then it's a very small roll to just back on the instrument to crack it open a little bit. And with the other one, you position your thumb again pretty close to the same position on the edge, not on the front of your thumb like this, but over on the side of your thumbnail. And then you have to switch it up like this to close it off completely. But you can get a very clean sound that way. If I do the rolling to the side, it's not quite as crisp. And how much you uncover is going to depend to some extent on the instrument. So for example, I have another alto here, and exactly how much thumb to use on this, but you can hear that changing the amount of opening on the thumb is going to change the pitch. And so there's a very specific spot where you're going to be in tune and where it's going to have a clean sound. You here, that was with too little thumb opening, and that's too much. So somewhere in the middle there is where you want to have it, and you have to simply learn the instrument. Each instrument is different, and you have to learn how much to open it on a particular instrument. So my strategy is, if I'm jumping back and forth between low notes and high notes, I use the rolling technique because it's faster. But if I am staying up on high notes for a while, I will switch to the thumbnail because it's more precise. So there you have the issue with the thumb on the high notes. Thank you.